Well, it's day one and it is already hitting the fan because we have a lovely leak. The first plumber that I had in here said he had never seen a radiator explode with such force. Hello friends, and welcome to my humble abode. No, literally, I know I've dressed it up to look quite fancy in here, but that's only because I'm hiding my crumbling foundation and my drafty windows just off frame. If you're new here, I'm Shannon Makes, starry-eyed old house enthusiast by day, circus artist by night, and welcome to what is the first real episode of this charming old house series where I try to renovate and restore this 120-year-old house that I bought in Nova Scotia. You're about to witness our first couple days in this house back when I didn't even know where half of the rooms were. And then where's the attic access on this side? It is. Oh, is it not here? There's not one here?
It's in the bathroom.
Right, funny, okay. Now remember, I bought this house sight unseen, so this is literally my first time setting foot in the actual house, and I have to admit that the first day or so of filming was definitely a bit rough. There was just so much to do. I remember it being a whirlwind of non-stop activity, but then I went back and looked at the footage and was like, holy cow, how did we even fit it all in? So to make up for the lack of coherent narration on day one, we decided to sit down on the morning of day two to summarize. It's gonna have to do.
What's happening?
Things went so fast yesterday, I feel like I didn't film anything for you guys.
Yeah. Oh, we got, after 7 trips to the hardware store, we got working sump pump. We were able to drain 90% of the water in the basement.
Because yes, surprise, there's water in our basement. This was a complete surprise to me too, because when the real estate agent toured the house for me, the basement was dry.
It is dirt floor. Not terribly wet, but yeah, like a dirt damp floor.
So yeah, as you see, no water. Cue us arriving at, 9 p.m. after having driven some 14 hours from Montreal to discover several inches of standing water in the basement. Now, we'd already been warned that the whole basement smelled strongly of animal feces, plus through a misunderstanding with the city, the electricity hadn't been turned on for half of the house, leaving us to explore almost entirely in the dark. Truly nightmare fuel. And one of the first things that became clear to us was that we are going to have to tackle both drying out and then emptying out that basement.
Okay, so here is, you see there's like 2-3 inches of water here. So this side is completely flooded. But you don't see it, but there's a sub pump there. And its pipe goes all the way up here and outside the house. So my guess is this just needs power. I see its power going there and down here.
So that first pump didn't work, and neither did the 4 or 5 others that we found laying around the basement rusted. So we had to go buy a new one and then dig a hole for it to sit in, which is also the moment we discovered that our basement is actually concrete. There is actually a slab under there. It's just sitting under several inches of sludge, all of which will eventually have to be carted out of there by yours truly.
So we installed the sub pump. Most of the water is drained in the basement.
That's a lot of water.
I need to dig a hole so I can put the pump lower to get all the water. Next step is to maybe jackhammer something, a bit of the concrete to be able to really sunk that pump. And we also found a pipe that's meant to drain the water, but it seems to be clogged. So we might have to hire somebody to come and
clear it out.
Check that pipe all the way down to the street.
We did not solve the mystery of the pouring ceiling. Well, it's day one and shit is already hitting the fan because we have a lovely leak.
Yeah, when we use the sink, the ceiling pisses on us.
Ah, yes, another charming feature of our house that we discovered. Yay, we now have running water, but we also have running water. And I feel like I might need to catch everybody up on the contractor situation because I'd had a few professionals come out to the house both before and after I made an offer on it, all long distance, of course. I was in Montreal, they were in Nova Scotia, and one of the things I made sure to do was I paid a plumber to come out, get the water turned on in the house, and jerry-rig some temporary plumbing to the downstairs bathroom so that when we arrived, we at least had a working toilet and sink. Everything else could be figured out later, but we needed just some very basic running water if we were gonna be staying in the house while we worked on it. So yeah, running water, but also water running out of our ceiling.
No idea what's up with that, so we're gonna have to open the ceiling and just go from the basement water line and just visually check where the water is coming from and why. Because now we had a plumber emergency set up a bathroom and sink, so we can do dishes and wash our hands, but now we can't do that. Well, we can and we do, but every time we do it pisses.
So then we also got the hot water heater.
Yeah,
so that was hopefully we can have hot water and a shower at some point in the future.
So we still don't have a shower, and so the plumber told us just go buy a cheap secondhand $50 water heater, and then we can finagle a temporary hot water solution in the house until we do the actual heating system all the way.
So that's exactly what I did. I hopped on Facebook Marketplace, something which is going to be a running theme in this renovation, I can already tell, and got incredibly lucky, managed to find a hot water heater both available that same day and not too far away. David. David bought a house to fix up and it came with a water heater he didn't need because he already had one of his own. Obviously, it's a bit risky to get a used water heater, but he was very upfront about the fact that he knew nothing about its condition and even offered an option to bring it back if it didn't work. It seemed very genuine and honest, and also we really needed hot water, so we decided it was worth the risk. Hopefully we can have hot water and a shower at some point in the future. That's going to be on hold until the basement's in much better shape though. The plumber came and all the contractors came and told us what the heck we needed to do. It was kind of honestly better than we anticipated for the most part, minus the new foundation that we might need.
Yeah.
So one of the first things I did on day one was to call a general contractor. This one was suggested to me by my realtor, and he came over and brought his plumber and then later his electrician. And we spent a couple hours walking all around the house, looking at the various problems we're facing and discussing potential solutions, timeframes, and budgets. Oh, budgets. But one of the main outcomes of this discussion was actually a massive change in plans for the heating of the house.
Before buying the house, we had the contractor telling us that we should install mini splits, heat pumps outside with overhead heating and conditioning, and electric baseboard. And the plumber and contractor we had today told us it was a terrible idea. Electricity was way too expensive to put electric baseboard, so we might go with hot water baseboard instead.
Now, reminder for those of you who haven't seen the previous video, the whole reason I was able to afford this house was because the pipes froze last winter and exploded, completely ruining pretty much all of the original cast iron radiators in the house and leaving us with a dire need for a new heating system, both just for our own comfort, but also for insurance purposes. Honestly, I was not in love with the mini split idea to begin with. I hated that concept.
Me either.
It does not go at all with the feel of the house. I mean, I would have loved to keep the radiators, to be quite honest.
Yeah, but we'll show you B-roll of what we're looking at.
It's rough.
They gave up on life.
The first plumber that I had in here before we bought the house said he had never seen a radiator explode with such force.
Yeah,
just to
impressive.
give an idea. So then while you were in here talking with the plumber, I went outside with Jason, who's doing all of the roofing and exterior, that's his thing, and we looked at the siding right here on the corner because we're missing a huge chunk of siding. Also, we have no flashing for part of the roof.
Yeah.
So that's just creating a really bad water situation. Also, there's no gutters here or on the other side of the kitchen, so all the rain is just coming off the roof and going right down to the foundation.
And Jason, the contractor, told us he would come back and patch the few shingles on the roof and work a bit on the really bad flashing, install the extra gutter just to stop anything that's bad temporarily, and then we can try to dry the house once the heating is done.
We discovered we have a door in our bathroom
And we have to stop.
that leads nowhere, and we have to stop. So that was basically day one. To recap, we arrived, walked around our house for the first time, found a roofer, a plumber, an electrician, started drying out the basement, discovered a massive leak, located a cheap water heater, and came one step closer to finalizing the plan for how to heat this house. Plus, we also filmed that house tour you watched last week, so not too bad for a day's work. Now, as you might have noticed, in all of these clips, we're walking around outside in shorts and t-shirts. It appears to be summer. Let me remind you that this house is in Nova Scotia, where it is very much winter right now. These clips were filmed last summer when I first bought the house, and they're only just now making their public debut. But my patrons have known about this house for well over 6 months and have been getting fairly regular updates on the progress. So if you're impatient and you want to know more about the house, you'd like a little bit more of an inside scoop, or maybe you'd just like to support this massive endeavor that I've decided to tackle, the link to my Patreon is in the description. But for now, on to day 2 at this lovely beast of a house. The good news is that the ceiling is no longer pouring water. We have managed to get that to stop. The bad news is that we might not have a foundation under half of our house. Fun. Hi, my name's Shannon, and I just bought a house that has some foundation issues, and I've heard you're the one to call. This is the foundation guy that our contractor suggested calling, and after a short tour of the property, he actually recommended that we talk to a second guy who was not immediately available. So we called him, but then we also did some exploration of ourselves, mainly trying to figure out what was the foundation situation under the newer addition of the house where the kitchen and the mudroom are. But this exploration got cut short by the arrival of the 16-foot dumpster that I'd ordered.
So dumpster is arriving in half an hour. We gotta clear that shit. Let's do it.
I did find wild strawberries. Yeah. Canella ate some already. As you might have noticed, the dumpster did not in fact fit behind the house, so it went on the side instead, but that's fine. We've still got good access, and we didn't lose any time before starting to fill it up with the contents of the basement. Now, I know you haven't seen the basement yet, or in the words of my realtor,
Go down to the horror film.
so let's do a quick walkthrough now before we start emptying it out. Highlights from my realtor include
There's a couple old antique doors in that corner that look quite cute. 37 bicycles. It's like a Tim Hortons commercial.
Looking back at this footage, I had forgotten just how bad it was. It was like this nightmarish twist on Antiques Roadshow where everything is just covered in mud and sludge. There's so much stuff down here, and while some of it was really nice antiques, a lot of it was just garbage, and it was hard to tell which was which. Some of it would definitely have been nice antiques if it hadn't been stored in a soaking wet, humid basement for God knows how long. So if you'll remember, the house is split in 2 apartments, which meant 2 heating systems. Plus, the man who used to own the house was, as it turns out, a plumber. So there were heating units, furnaces, water boilers, and pipes everywhere you turned in here, and I'm still not sure how we're gonna get some of it out of there. There was so much garbage on the floor and piled up on every surface, and it was so bad that there were parts of the basement that were completely unreachable, both by us and by our building inspector, which, let's just say, that came back to bite us a bit later. Sprinkled here and there were items that looked like diamonds in the rough, like this mantelpiece or this pile of antique doors, which thankfully had been stored on the drier side of the basement. We still had no power to the wet half of the house, so there were only a couple small windows letting in light. Basically, it was dark, wet, gross, and full of mystery. So now that you've seen what we're dealing with, it was time to get to work emptying it out.
$37 bicycles.
Anyone who's been here a while knows that I love to save and repurpose other people's garbage. Heck, I have entire videos just on dumpster diving and raiding the streets of Montreal, but with the scale of this house project, I really needed to focus on the task at hand and try not to save everything that I pulled out of the basement. Like this clearly broken and rundown lamp. Just watch the internal struggle right here as I tell myself I don't have time or energy to refurbish it. So that's day 2 in a nutshell. You'll get a sneak peek at all the excitement that day 3 had in store for us in a second, but first, a Patreon question for everyone. And I chose this one because I actually got a lot of patrons asking about it, and it does play a large role in how we're approaching the work here. So people mainly wanted to know if I'm keeping it as a single family home or splitting it back up into 2 units, and if so, why? Okay, hold up. I'm gonna have to pause this question right here because I need to preface the answer I'm about to give with some context, because I got so many comments in last week's video about this main wall right here, you know, the one running the entire length of the house and effectively splitting it into 2 units. Now, some of you were genuinely curious if it was original to the house or not, and definitely a bit hopeful that if it wasn't, maybe I would tear it out. Perhaps fueled by Titanic-filled images of a grand sweeping staircase in the entryway, which, I mean, I have to admit that would be a stunning image, but it would also be an absolute bear to heat in the winter. However, some of you were just flat out telling me as a cold, hard fact, without ever having stepped foot in the house or looked under a single floorboard, that the wall was not and could not be original to the house, and that I should absolutely get rid of it because houses just weren't constructed like that back then. It wasn't a thing. And to those people, I have to ask, who gave you the keys to our house? Who let you tear up the floorboards to see how this building was constructed? Obviously no one, because here's the thing, I have seen inside these walls, and I know how both the stairs and the wall were constructed. And no, it's not just like one giant staircase that somebody just plopped a wall on top of and split it into 2 things. It is, in fact, part of the original structure of the house. So, no, there will be no opening it up. The wall is staying, it is original, and also, please stop breaking into my house. Okay, with that out of the way, let's get back to the original question. And the answer is that we're not 100% sure what the long-term goal for the house would be. Literally, I saw the house, absolutely fell in love with it, and knew that it would probably be demolished if to make way for new construction if I didn't buy it. So I just kind of leapt in without a fully fleshed out plan, which I understand it sounds so naive, but I assure you it's not as stupid as it sounds. I talked with my realtor before purchasing it, and I also looked at the demographics of the area, and there is a rental housing shortage here. My realtor was very confident that we wouldn't have any trouble renting it out once it was, habitable. And I know there's gonna be skeptics out there saying, of course your realtor is saying that. He wants you to buy the house. No. He actually quasi tried to talk me out of it at several steps along the way, just checking in, asking, are you sure you want to do this? You don't have to purchase it. If anything you see in the inspection is, you're not comfortable with it. So he was very much on my side, and I do know because talking with him that I should be able to rent out half of it fairly easily, and that is the current plan simply because it's not financially viable for me any other way. I know people think that YouTube makes a ton of money, but honestly, I'm still a very small channel. It really doesn't. I didn't buy this house with YouTube money. My parents didn't buy it for me. Maybe I can do a whole nother video where I get into the financials later, but for now, trust me when I say that I bought it with my own hard-earned cash. And if you'll recall from all of my intros, I am a self-employed freelance artist, so it's not like I have a lot of cash just laying around, and the ability to rent out half of the house was literally the only reason I could afford to purchase it. Now, with that said, I would actually love to have something more along the lines of a short-term rental situation, Airbnb, or maybe just a normal B&B. I don't know yet. I think it would be amazing to be able to actually really go in and decorate all of the rooms and rent them out fully furnished and decorated. I think it would be really fun to keep it as a single family house, and to some extent the layout actually does work way better as a single family home. Maybe I can get into that in a future video, but for now I just can't afford it. So that's the answer to that question. And if you have a burning question you would like to ask, you can head over to my Patreon and ask one there. I'll be answering one per week, more or less, just trying to give everyone a little bit more insight into the house, maybe clarifying things that weren't obvious or touching on topics that I just didn't think to mention in the videos. So feel free to head on over there and leave me a question. But for now, time to move this water heater. Wish us luck. Let's see how it goes. Not that I don't enjoy going to my realtor's house for the occasional shower, but it would be great to be able to do things like wash dishes and our hands. A absolutely free antique couch, which very much fits the aesthetic of this house. We're gonna see if we can get this window open, because if we can, it would save us so much time. Well, that's not promising. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll catch you in the next video.